Salut, coucou, hello and welcome to French Lover. Finalement, je veux faire une vidéo sur le passé composé. Finally, I'm going to do a video on passé composé. That's one of the past tense. We've done imparfait. So go check a video on imparfait. When do we use imparfait? We say we use it for a continuous action in the past. That's an action that has not ended. We use it for description in the past. We use it to talk about habit or character in the past. Okay, that's what we said for imparfait. So when you fall under that category, just think of imparfait. Don't go too far. So passé composé. When do we use passé composé? We use passé composé when the action has already ended. For example, I ate before John came. I ate before John came. I was already done eating before John came. Okay, but it was I was eating when John came. That would be imperfect because I'm still eating. Then John walks in. But I ate, then John came, or before John came, which means I was done eating, then John came. Okay, so you use passé composé with an action that has ended in the past, like it has finished already. Okay, so that's how you use passé composé. And most of the time, passé composé, the past tense in passé composé, we have a date. Okay, a date, like a dated past. For example, in 2007, I won. Oh wait, in 2024, I won $1 million. Yes, I love positive speaking. Meaning, in 2024, I won $1 million. As I've already won it. Okay, that's why I said it's mostly attached to a date because you're already done doing it. Okay, so en 2024, j'ai gagné $1 million. $1 million, $1 million. Okay, so passé composé, action that has been completed in the past. It has been concluded. It is finished. Okay, and also for actions in the past that were dated. There was a date on it. It's finished. Okay. So that's why we use passé composé. So it's not complicated. It's actually imperfect that you really have to check if it's imperfect. Okay. So, combination of passé composé. How do we write passé composé? That is simple. How do we write passé composé? You have to master the verb to be, être, and then the verb to have, avoir, in the present tense. You make sure you know them very well in the present tense. Now, when you know them very well in the present tense, you will combine these verbs to what we call a past participle. Participe passé of a verb. The past participle of a verb. So, to do or to write a passé composé, it's combination of either the verb to be or to have plus the past participle of the verb you're talking about. The verb to be or the verb to have plus the past participle of the verb you are. For example, as I said, I ate. I ate. That's the verb to eat. I ate. Now, which verb will go with the verb to eat? It will be avoir. That's the verb to have. Okay, I have eaten. J'ai mangé. So I've combined the verb to have, j'ai, conjugated, and then the past participle of the verb to eat, which is manger. Okay, there are many things you should know here before combining passé composé. You should first know the past participle of a verb, and then you should know how to conjugate the verb to be and to have in the present tense. And then you need to know whether you are using the verb to be or you're using the verb to have for a particular verb. How will you know that? It's easy. For all the three things, I will give you the magic solution. And this video might not be enough. Like if it's more than 15 minutes, I think I will cut it for a part 2. Okay, so it'll be too long. So let's start with knowing how to get the past participle of a verb. Simple. By now you should know there are 3 groups of verbs: the ER verbs, that's first group verb, the IR verbs, second group verbs, and then the third group verb, which is DRE, TRE, OIR, RE, and ALE. Yes, all of them fall in the third group verbs. Okay, now for first group verb, which ends with ER, what you do is you remove the letter R at the end, and then you add an accent on the E. That's E accent aigu. That's the acute accent. Just look at the picture, you see what I mean. So you remove the ER and then you add E accent. E acute accent, accent aigu. So if I were to do manger, which ends with an ER, I remove the ER and then I'll add E accent, and then I have the past participle of manger. That is it. That's all. For second group verb, you remove the IR. Second group verb ends with IR. You remove the IR and then you add I, letter I. That's it. You're done. You have the past participle of that verb. For example, finir, the common verb to finish, finir, FINIR. What do? You remove the IR and then you add letter I. It will be still fini. That's the past participle of that verb. It applies to all the second group verbs. Okay, the E accent for ER verbs applies to all ER verbs. That's how you get the past participle. Now, how do we get the past participle of third group verbs? First of all, you should know by now that third group verbs are very irregular. Like, they are seriously irregular. And yet, they are the most used verbs, okay, in speaking and in writing. Bear this well. So, the common or the most way to get the past participle of a third group verb is by removing the endings of that third group verb, which can be DRE, can be TRE, can be OR, can be RE, and then you add a letter U. Letter U at the end after remove the endings. So if I have a word like pouvoir, that's a common one, pouvoir, the verb to can or to be able to. I just recently did a video on that verb, so you can go check it out. Pouvoir, ending with OIR, third group verb ending with OIR. So what do? You remove the ending, which is O. Actually, you remove everything. And you just put U. So it'll be pu. J'ai pu. PU. I told you they are irregular. Okay. Then vouloir. You remove the OIR and then you add a U. So it'll be voulu. That's the past participle. Voir, that's the verb to see. VOIR. You remove the OIR and then you put U. So we have vu. Let's take another ending. Lire, that's the verb to read. LIRE. It ends with an, I don't know if it's RE or IRE. So you remove the IRE and you add the U. You have lu. That's the past participle. Told you, third group verbs are irregular. So for first group verb, to get the past participle, you remove the ER and then you add E accent aigu. Okay, E accent aigu. Sorry, for second group verb, and then with IR, you remove the IR and then you add letter I. You have the past participle. For third group verb, most of the verbs, when you remove their endings, you add a letter U. But you have some irregularities. Of course, they change. Okay. That's the first part of it. The second part is to know how to conjugate the verb to be and the verb to have in the present tense. You should know this from A1 level. That's from the very beginner's level. They should know how to conjugate it already. Now the issue is, how do you know which of the verb to use to accompany the verb you're actually talking about to help it? Because the verb to be and the verb to have helps the verb in the passé composé. Okay, if I say I danced, I will say j'ai dansé. I'm using avoir to help the danser. J'ai dansé, I danced. So how will you know it's actually avoir I'm to use for that verb and not être? This is also simple. All you need to do is just, I know there are many rules, but just master them if you really want to learn this French. Okay, so how do you know? First of all reflexive verbs use the verb to be. All of them. If you don't understand what I mean by reflexive verbs, go watch my video on reflexive verbs. Verbs that use se in front before the verb is there, like s'appeler, se laver, se lever, se doucher. Verbs that the action is being done on the subject and not on the object. Action done on the subject, not on the object. The action is done on the subject, that's the person talking, and not on an object, that's the person out of you. If you don't know, I've said it, there's a video, go and check it out. Okay, so all reflexive verb use the verb to be. Okay, which means if you want to use être to help a verb in the passé composé, the action should be done on the subject and not on the object. The action should be done on the subject and not on the object. Now, many people will say you should memorize Dr. Mrs. Vandelson to know, but I disagree with that, but not totally, because there are some verbs that we use both the verb to be and the verb to have. For example, monter. M-O-N-T-E-R, monter, meaning to climb. Like if you say climbing the stairs, je monte les escaliers. I'm climbing the stairs. Now, if you want to say I climbed the stairs, okay, you will say je suis monté. Je suis monté. You're using the verb to be because the action is done on you. Is happening on you. Remember, action be done on the subject. Okay, but if I want to say I took my box upstairs, like a briefcase or a suitcase, okay, you took it upstairs. Now the action is being done on the object, no more on the subject. So I will say j'ai monté ma valise. J'ai monté ma valise. So the same verb monter, using both the verb to be, être, je suis monté, I climbed, and then the verb to have, j'ai monté, still I climbed, but this time I climbed a suitcase upstairs. I took it upstairs. So be careful with Dr. Mrs. Vanderson. Some verbs we use both depending on what you are saying. So I'll prefer you memorize the fact that when the action on the verb is being done on the subject, like the subject is the one facing the consequences of that verb, you use être. And then when the action of the verb, the object is facing the consequences of the action of the verb, is avoir. Let me say it again. When the subject is the one facing the consequences of the action, it's être. Now, when I say subject, I mean je, tu, il, elle, nous, vous, and the rest, or somebody's name. Okay, it can be somebody's name. So when the person is facing the consequences of the verb you are using, you use être to help the verb. when the object, that's the thing you are talking about, is facing the consequences of the action of the verb, you use avoir. For example, what do I mean by facing the consequences? If I say j'ai mangé, I ate. J'ai mangé, I ate. You are the one who ate, but who faced the consequences of the eating is the food. Okay, so take it away. J'ai mangé. So you use avoir on the food. Okay. Now, je suis venu. I came. Je suis venu. I came. Now, who is facing the consequences of the walking, of the coming? It's you. So you use être. Je suis venu. Okay. So how do we know a verb will be helped by être or will be helped by avoir? I've said it. First of all, no, all reflexive verbs use être because all the actions are being done on the subject. When the subject is facing the consequences of the action of the verb, you use être. When the object is facing the consequences of the action of the verb, you use avoir. I've said it. I'll put some. So, I think I've spoken too much. So I just want you to, 60 minutes. I just want you to note that, okay? In the next video, we are going to do a dialogue. So you see when we use imparfait, where we use passé composé, and we're going to do exercises. So you see what I mean, okay? So, don't forget there will be a part 2. Au revoir et bonne journée. Number on the screen, I offer WhatsApp classes. So, contactez-moi lorsque vous pouvez ou lorsque vous voulez avoir des cours de français. If you have any question, ask. I know it's much to take at once, okay? But it's simple, promise.